through your academic work, through different research papers, which will help the clients as well as the government to take a view. And even courts sometimes refers to those articles. We have seen Dr. Chandrachud referring to a lot of articles of making these judgments. So it is a it is quite a re- evident feature in today's legal fraternity as well as judicial fraternity to write articles and write columns. Judges obviously don't write in the higher judiciary because they have a power among themselves, but they do write in journals. And retired judges obviously write for bar and bench live law. We have already seen. Now, why is the necessity? Why is such a necessity now, and what help does it render? Now, things have two different. This has a dual approach. One pre 2017 approach, and one is post 2017 approach. A lot of young counsels who aspire to be senior advocates later on in their life uh, will tell you, since the Indira Jaising judgment has said one should write articles, so therefore we are writing articles. Now, why do I, if I ask myself this question, that why do I write articles? Or why do I get it published? Or why do I write research papers? The answer is very simple. How to express certain views. Every view cannot be expressed through a judgment, through your argument noted in a judgment. There are some things, like let us, for example, on a policy decision or on an international case, on a recent judgment of passed by the laws or the IC, PCA, or the let's say a Supreme Court judgment or a High Court judgment, a critical analysis. It is very important to refer to those. And sometimes your views about certain new legislations, like people are writing a lot about the farmers legislation. So the way you look at things, it may not be right, it may be right, but you have a freedom to write, not obviously demeaning anybody, right? Sometimes too harsh views may be demeaning to somebody. So one has to take a balanced approach. That has to be learned too. How to take a balanced approach, how to write in a neutral manner. Then only you will develop yourself. And by writing articles, you are delving into the research part as well as you are nurturing your academic bent. The more you research, the more you exercise your brain, it will give you better results. And you tend to relax also. You switch off from your normal daily chores of entertaining the clients, going to the court, preparing a brief, preparing a case. It is like writing an article. It's like saying whatever you feel like in a considered manner, right? Like, for example, if I say I have written articles on very topics like GST and the power of arrest, then you have Vodafone case, PCA award, arbitral award, and the analysis, the probable points on which India can file an appeal. India has already gone up in appeal. We have to wait and see what happens there. The jurisdictional issue in the Enrica Lexi case of the it loss, where the Italian Marines were involved, who had purportedly killed two Keralite fishermen. And then you have this landlord-tenant disputes are arbitrable, which overruled Himangini judgment, which held the field so long. Then you have different kinds of um, topics. For example, the powers of the governor, constitutionalism, over judicial overreach. All these are topics which independent directors, powers of independent directors, like one should nurture the least discussed, all not always, but sometimes the least discussed areas in normal daily legal life of a lawyer, that only comes up during the discussions or during writing articles. So that part should be adverted to, right? Like like in this way, then you will have a proper academic bent, or a research bent going on. It is not only about earning money by arguing cases, it is also about contributing to your fraternity. How do you contribute to your fraternity? By writing, by explaining to people how do you feel about this thing. What is your opinion about this thing? In that way, it is an indirect way of uh, revenue generation also. Because people are reading those blogs, and nowadays, well, not only nowadays, before also, clients are never idiots. Clients also do a background check and come when they're paying an hefty fees to afford a lawyer. So it's not normal cases like, well, not a bail, anticipatory bail or something like that, but it is something different, like some sales tax issue, some entry tax issue, some RBI banking issue, some customs issue. So like it goes on. Like, what are the powers of nomination and remuneration committee? What are the powers of it? What are the powers of independent directors? Are they required to retire by rotation? Are independent directors similar to additional directors? So these kind of topics go around, and we need to research and go think out of the box to get into it. So this is quite important as to why one should write research papers, because it will give you a holistic approach. Next, it will give you a bent of research. Third, it will boost your confidence that okay, my analysis has been published, so I can give this paper in a credible publication. So I can give this paper to anybody else. He or she can read this paper and form a view. If I'm wrong, they can correct me. If I'm right, obviously, critical analysis is always important. So, therefore, it is very important nowadays to write papers. Now, for example, for students, now let us come to students. For every, see, right, one student can also write about Vodafone case, one professional can write about a professional case, and even, for example, Mr. Salve can also write. Lawyers in the stature of Mr. Salve can also write, I'm saying. So, the level obviously increases, and people expect more from you. If a student writes and then after I write, so obviously there will be variation in the two levels, of course. If I write like a LLB final year student, it is not what is expected of me, right? And what that person writes, of course, if he writes like me, it's commendable. Other way around. So this now the students must realize that having credible publications on your CV really helps in getting you placed also. Like, your views may be there, your views may or may not be accepted, but it gives you a technical edge over above people. Like, your views are respected and published in a credible publication. This is how people in foreign jurisdictions develop themselves. I've seen my friends and my peers doing their PhDs and their LLMs in foreign jurisdiction, and they do these things. They publish their papers, they do publications, which help them in the long run. Like, it is not only for teachers or professionals to write, it is also for students to write. Law students form the backbone of our country's student community. They are the future generations. We would perish one day, but the upcoming generations are they have to do it. And some people would ask, sir, whether we should do moot court or we should write papers. Obviously, both are different in their different aspects, but to me, writing research papers holds much water as compared to going for a moot. Because see, either if you go for a moot, if you win, so let's see, if you have like fascination to participate in a good moot court, go for one and finish it off. But people have a tendency to go and collect certificates. That is not worth in commenting, or that is not commendable also. But here, if you write good research papers, you will know, like, why is your paper, and you send it to somebody. If you feel that you are at your peak, and the editorial board feels no more research to be done, you may feel bad at the first blush, but when you work hard and get that paper published, then you will be satisfied. There is a different level of satisfaction which will come therein. So therefore, my view always would be that students from their third year onwards or fourth year onwards should try and write papers. They should write more of judgment and judge on judgments and critical analysis. That way, they will learn the law. They will learn how to analyze things, analyze provisions, and give them to credible publications like you have Just Corpus, then you have Laws, then you have Taxman and all these things, SEC and all, where you can obviously publish your paper, and your paper will have wide scale circulation. So you need to speak to them and get your speak to them, know their guidelines, and thereafter write papers and get it published. So this is how things should be done. And this is the importance. And for lawyers, the important part is once you start writing and once you wake up your brains and cells and you go into the interpretation part, you know, like tomorrow a case comes, your research will come handy. Ultimately you will earn money through that, what research you have done in writing that paper. At that point of time one may not earn, but later on he might earn. He will earn. Publications, you have to write papers. Increase the level. So that is how it should be. So this is now. I would love to answer a few questions, as I have more or less briefed you about the background of writing papers.
Yes, sir, for sure, sir. Thank you for the wonderful insights. Let us begin with the questions. Sir, what are the qualities that one requires to become a legal researcher?
One should read the understand the topic. First of all, let us take a topic. Let's say uh, let's say uh, in the recent judgment of NDPS case, where in Tofan Singh, where Supreme Court says that under Section 53A of NDPS Act, the statement given is akin to 161 statement, not a 164 CRPC statement, because they are police officers. So whether that judgment moves a stay forward or all the pending cases
Sir, you are not audible. Hello.
or what are the different options before self self realization is important for the same. So therefore, to become answering the question, for becoming a leading researcher or a good researcher, one should think, one should be a good thinker, and one should read also. Read about the judgments and all, rake up questions in your mind, go to the bottom of the things, get hold of the backbone of the things. Then only you will be able to do things in a proper manner.
Okay, sir. Moving on to another question. What are the essentials of a research paper to make it an impactful research paper?
See, there should the flow should be maintained. It should be simple. It should be as of the language should be simple so that people can understand. Don't write like in Shakespearean English or in a or in Victorian English, which people won't even understand. and people need to sit with a dictionary to understand. So no use writing those. It doesn't make a paper super worthy, or if you don't write, it won't make a paper super complex. The language should be simple. There should be a proper flow, proper analysis of things, and there should be and the discussion would a conclusion would give a food for thought. It would rake up questions in people's minds. These are the two most important things which are required when writing a paper.
Okay, sir. Moving on to another question. So, what is plagiarism and how the gross plagiarism affects one's paper?
Plagiarism means a kind of theft. Like you take up things from other person's research, and you that's basically an identity theft. You use somebody else's research in your paper without acknowledging the same. That's called plagiarism. And too much of plagiarism is discredit. That means you have not done any analysis, you have just done copy paste job. This is not the things do not send out a very good message about the person doing it. And it is a and it is obviously theft of intellectual property, which can land you up into tremendous trouble.
Sir, am I audible to you? Because I
Yeah,
think there is a
yeah.
network problem. That's why your voice is breaking again and again. I think so.
I think there is a problem at your end.
Yes, sir. So, moving on to another question. What are the places where we can publish our papers easily? Can you suggest some?
Easy, nothing is easy. You have to write and do like nothing comes easy in life. There's not an ice cream shop that you go and pick up ice creams. You have to write well, and then there are several platforms: SEC, Taxman, this platform, just Corpus. Then you have Law Essentials. Then you have Burnish Law. A lot of people, a lot of public. This pandemic has thrown open so many publication options. Like people can try and get it published, and these are all ISSN journals. So these are all these whole credibility. Then there are law reviews published by several law universities. One can get it published over there. So there are several ways and means to get your paper published if you do credible work. But things are not easy. You're on mute.
Sorry, sir. What is the important role of the research paper in the dispute resolutions?
See, research paper is a research paper. There is no differentiation, hardly any differentiation between dispute resolution. Obviously, the way and perspective of looking at things change. If you are appearing in courts, the things you will look at it is different. If you are giving advisory work in corporate, like like more or less, it is intermixed in some topics, like in a merger acquisition, a scheme, a merger scheme. Like in dispute resolution, one has to defend a resolution scheme or a merger scheme. So we know which portions to harp on, which portions the judge will see, and which portions he won't see. But as a corporate consultant, or as a corporate lawyer, I have to know the swap ratio also, and I have to know the profit sharing ratio, etc., whatever is required, and the analysis of the shareholding pattern, etc., which is required. So it is like, it is not that in dispute resolution it is something different, or in corporate it is something different. The thing is that the approach changes. the tenor changes and the way of looking at things changes. Otherwise, the topic remains the same. You have to work hard in either way.
Yes, sir. Moving on to another question. What is the difference between a blog and a research paper, and how which which thing matters a lot, a blog or a research paper?
See, both are good, but research papers it has wide range circulation. Blog can be may or may not be seen by a lot of people, but research papers it gets it is posted on LinkedIn nowadays. Online research papers. Then sometimes it gets published in journals, so that has wide scale circulation. So that way, many people will be able to read it. It has wide research papers. Publication of research paper has does have, in my view, wider publicity than a blog. Blog obviously is a new concept, but in among Indian legal fraternity, if one does not write research papers in journals, then his research paper may remain in the oblivion. But on one hand, if you write only blogs and not research papers, you will again remain in the oblivion.
Yes, sir. Moving on to another question. Does the question is asked by Mr. Gaurav Patel? I am taking directly live from the YouTube. The question is as follows: does taking one's idea and giving it your own edge amounts to plagiarism?
Sorry, please repeat again.
Yes. Does taking one's idea and giving it your own edge amounts
Yeah,
to plagiarism?
not totally. See, if you borrow ideas and and modify it and back it up with your own reasoning and give proper acknowledgement of the same, that this portion of the idea is taken from XYZ. So that is not plagiarism. That is acknowledgement. But if you say XYZ is my idea and not the other person's idea, that is plagiarism.
Yes, sir. So last but not the least question: how to start the legal writing when a person is interested from the very first year of their law school?
I would suggest one to start slowly, not to take a giant leap. It's not a 100-meter race. It's like a test match. One has to pace slow. In the first year and second year, please get accustomed to your legal studies. Know about things. First, complete your projects. While you are fluent with writing projects and submitting assignments, then only jump to research papers. Right. Because jumping the gun and having 10, 20 things on your CV when you should not have even one. If you eat too many sweets at one point of time, then you will have diabetes. Like same thing.
Yes, sir. A very well said answer by giving the live example of the diabetes and the sweets. Here we come to the end of this webinar, sir. If you want to give some message to our viewers regarding legal writing or to start writing something, please.
My only message is to try and think, read more, think more, and try to make people understand in simple terms. Like people lame and like not like people who are not law. You have to think in your mind that people who are not lawyers, who are non-lawyers, may also read your paper. So if a businessman reads your paper, how far he will understand? An MBA if he reads your paper, how far he will understand? A science graduate if he reads your paper, how far he will understand? The legal terminologies and the interpretations, how lucidly and how in a simple manner you can explain to people, that counts. That should be the aim. And also, right, don't use don't I have said previously also, don't use heavy words. Write it in as many words, short and concise sentences backed up by logical reasoning. This should be the goal.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Here we come to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Chatterjee sir, for accepting our proposal and providing us a broad and vast knowledge about this importance of legal writing for a law student as well as a law graduates. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks to everyone for attending this webinar. Wish you a very happy new year in advance.